Hello gamers, it's Tom Seidner, the Lonely Gamer. Today we're going to take a look at a 2 to 5 player game by Arcane Wonders called Viral. Viral is a really good game. It's a beautiful game and it's a very fun game to play. So let's take a look at how you play Viral. First, you place the Viral game board in the center of the table where everybody can reach the game board. Next, you give each player in their chosen color their player board, 3 wooden tokens, 8 virus tokens. They have a standard side and a shielded side. There, they go on the player board, non-shielded side up. Each player gets 4 virus cards. Those virus cards have a picture of their player icon at the bottom, so they get the virus cards with their player icon at the bottom. They also get 4 region cards, and those region cards have their picture on the back of the region card. You then randomly place, white side up, the scoring tokens on the board in the 5 locations where they go. So you randomly pick them and place them in the location on the board. Please note that whatever you place in the 5th region actually gets 1 victory point added to it right here. The next thing you do is you take the round marker and you place it on the board where it says number 1 here on the board. The next thing you do is you take the 4 crisis tokens and you place them in the crisis track in numeric order, 1 through 4. You have each player place 1 of their wooden tokens on the scoring track here, 1 of their tokens on the research track on their color, and 1 of their tokens on the tiebreaker track here in the location based on first player. You randomly select your first player and then you place the tokens here with the first player at the top, and then around the table in clockwise order you place the rest of the players here on the tiebreaker track. Each player places their personal board next to them on the table. Remove the virus cards and the event cards from the box. The virus cards have little test tube on the back and the event cards have the viral symbol on the back. Take the event cards, shuffle them, draw 6 event cards at random, place those event cards on the event card location on the board right here, and put the remaining event cards back in the box. Take the virus cards, shuffle those as well, place them next to the game board and deal out 3 virus cards. Give the first player token to the player that's the first player, and then you're ready to start the game. Place any remaining scoring tokens back in the box as well. So on your turn, a player is going to secretly select 1 region card from their hand and 1 virus card from their hand. They're going to take these cards and they're going to play them face down next to their player board on the side that says 1. Everybody's going to do this, and once everybody's done, then you will continue with play. This is the section here on the player board. This section here says to pass the first player token, but we are going to ignore that for the first round, and we're going to move on to here where we select our cards and place them on the one side of our player board. Once everybody's selected their cards, then you're going to start with the first player and they're going to resolve their cards. So my cards are the kidneys and basic attack. So to resolve my card, I would place 1 of my player tokens because I have the symbol for infect here. I would place that in the kidneys in either zone that I like, so I'll place it right here in the zone. And then if there was another virus in the kidneys, I could attack that virus, removing it from the zone. If that virus was shielded, then I would flip that virus over instead of removing it from the zone. So viruses go from shielded to unshielded to remove. Viruses come into play unshielded. If you have a action on your card that is blue, that means that that action has to be performed in one of these zones of the card that you played. So in this case, I have to infect the kidneys either in kidney 1 or kidney 2 zone. I cannot infect any place else on the board. Also with this attack, it is blue also, so I had to attack in the kidneys. I could not attack any place else on the board. If the symbol is white, you can perform that action anywhere on the board. Once all the players in clockwise order have played their cards that they selected for round 1, then we move to round 2. We do the exact same thing we did in round 1. For round 2, each player selects a region card from the ones they have left. They cannot select the one they've already played, and a virus card from the one they have left. So they're going to take those cards and they're going to place them face down on side number 2 on their board. Once everybody's selected their cards and played them face down, then you're going to reveal them. And then everybody's going to play their cards in clockwise order. So I'm first player, so I would go first. I am able to infect in the lungs. It has to be in the lungs because it's blue, so I would take one of my tokens and I would place it in the lungs. And then I can move 2 tokens. I can move my tokens, or I can move somebody else's tokens, and I can also move something anywhere I want. So even though I played the lungs zone card, I don't have to move things in the lungs because these are not blue. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my first movement to move this guy out of the kidney and up to the heart. And I'm going to use my second movement to move from the lungs to the heart. When moving, you have to follow the arrows. You cannot go against the flow in the veins and arteries. Keep in mind you also have this yellow area here where you can move, and you can always move back and forth between the zones. So as long as you're following the arrows for movement, that is a legal move. Once everybody has played their selected cards in the second round, we move to this phase here, and during this phase here we pick up any cards that are above our board, which there are none at this point because it's the first round, and then we take all cards that we played this turn and we place them above our board like this. That completes the first phase of the game. The next phase of the game, we move down here, is the scoring phase. Now we score each zone starting at the top and working our way down. So we start with the brain. In order to score a zone, you have to have complete control of that zone. So in the brain, there's only one section, so all you need to do is have the most viruses in the brain to score that area. The heart has 2 sections, and so in order to score the heart, you have to have the most viruses in the heart, but you also have to have at least 1 virus in both sections of the heart. So therefore, this player here would not be able to score the heart, because even though they have the most viruses in the heart, they do not have something in both sections. The lungs have 2 sections, the liver, pancreas have 2 sections, the kidneys have 2 sections, and this area here, section 5, has actual 3 sections. So you have to have 1 item in each one of these sections in order to score that area. So to score, if I scored the brain, I would look here and I get 2 points for having control of the brain. So I would get 2 points on the score track, and then I would go up +1 on the research track. So I would move my token up 1 here. We would move to the heart. Nobody controls the heart, nobody controls the lungs, nobody controls the liver, nobody controls the kidney, and nobody controls the stomach area. So that would complete the scoring for this round. So during the initial setup, we should have turned this over, so this actually should be face up for the first round, and we try when we play to read these aloud to everybody so that everybody knows what the event is for this round. The event for this round was no smoking, so it says place the lowest numbered crisis tile available in the lung 1 and lung 2 if no tile is present. So Once we get to that, that's what's going to happen. That way people know ahead of time what the goals are, because a lot of the events will give you points for having viruses in those locations. Once we're finished with the scoring phase, we're going to move to the event phase, and then we're going to do whatever the event card says. This one says to place the lowest number of crisis tokens available in the lung 1 and lung 2. So the lowest number available is 1. So we're going to put that in lung 1 and this in lung 2. Once the event has been resolved, we remove the event card from the game. This is also a timer stack. Once this location is empty, we know that that's the end of the game at the end of the round where that's empty. We move down to the crisis phase, phase 4, and then we resolve any location that is in crisis. During the game, at any time, if one of the locations, and that is just one side of a location, so one of the sections of the heart, one of the section of the liver and pancreas, one of the section of the stomach, if any of those ever meet the crisis criteria, then you place a crisis token in that location. You look on the board right here and it will tell you what the criteria is for the crisis. In a 2-player game, it's 3 viruses in any location. If a 3-player game is 3 also, a 4-player game is 4, and a 5-player game is 5. So if we take a look at the lungs here, at any time if this would happen, we would place a crisis token in it. Now the lungs have a crisis token in it because of the event, but if there hadn't been an event, this would still be in crisis because there's 3 viruses in that location. Anytime there is a crisis and something is moved out, let's say this moved out during play, that crisis token would remain until the crisis is resolved. So taking something out of crisis does not remove a crisis token. Once we get to the crisis phase here, we go ahead and resolve the crisis. The first thing we do to resolve a crisis is we find who's got the most viruses in that location. It's not the whole zone, it's just that location. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the crisis based on the crisis number, the lowest to the highest. So we're going to start with this one. We're going to resolve this crisis. We look here and we see that the gray player and the green player both have 1 crisis in that location. So in case of a tie like we have here, we refer to the tiebreaker track here to determine who wins. And in this case, the green player is at the top of the tiebreaker track, so they actually beat the gray player. And so the green player, who has the most viruses with the tiebreaker, gets 2 points. And the gray player, and any other players that are in that zone, will receive 1 point. At any time, if a player reaches this location that says draw a card, that player gets to draw a card from the cards that are available here in the virus section. The player can either choose a card that is face up, or they can randomly take a card from the top of the deck. If a player takes a card that's face up, then the card is replaced by a card by flipping a new one over. If a person takes the top card randomly, then all of the cards that are out into the area now get removed and put on the bottom of the deck. So let's go ahead, just for fun, and look at this situation and take a card randomly. So we'll take a card randomly. That card goes into our hand. All of these cards get removed and placed on the bottom of the virus deck, and the virus deck gets replenished. Once this crisis is resolved, the immune system of the person kicks in and it actually hits all the viruses that are in this location. So this green one would become removed because it is not shielded. It would go back to the player board of the person who owns it. This one would actually just get flipped over because it's shielded. Then the crisis token would be returned to the crisis track in the location where it goes, and then we would move on to the next crisis. In this crisis, green has the most viruses in that location, so they would receive 2 points, and gray would receive 1 point for being in there also. These two would be removed. This one would be flipped over, and this would be placed back in the crisis track. Once all the crises have been resolved in numeric order, then we move to the cures phase. In the cures phase, we look to the research track and we look to see if any player has their token all the way up to the top of the phase. If a player does have one of their tokens up to the top of the phase, then all of their viruses are hit for 1 damage. In this case, the gray player would lose this token, and this token would be flipped over. If all of the gray player's tokens had been shielded, then all of his tokens would have been flipped over, but he would not have lost any of his tokens. Once this is resolved, then their token is moved all the way back down to the beginning of the research phase, and this starts over. Once the cure phase is resolved, we move down to the ending phase, and during the ending phase, any viruses that were merged during the turn are unmerged, and then we recycle the tiebreaker track. So in this case, now the gray would move to the top of the tiebreaker track and the green would move to the bottom. The tiebreaker track is always based on the scoring order. So in this case, this would get flipped over and now gray will receive the tiebreaker. Once that's finished, we move up to the top again. We give the first player token to the next player, and then the game continues. The game continues until the round when the last event is placed over here. This would be the final round of the game. You would continue on down through the phases until you get to this phase, and then you would do the final scoring for the game. At the end of the game, the final scoring works in this way. You receive score for any virus cards that you've received during the game. If you notice, these virus cards have a score down in the bottom. This is a 2, this is a 2 and a 3. You would receive score for any virus cards that you received during the game. They would be in your hand or in your pile here. You would also receive the score that you get on the scoring track, and then you also receive 1 point for every location that contains your virus at the end of the game. So in this case, the gray would get 3 points and the green would get 4 points. At the end of the game scoring, you do not get to draw cards at that point. By that time, most players will be down here anyway, and you would not be in the card drawing location anyway. A couple things to note: if any player ever passes this location here, this says to turn all of these scoring markers over. So when that person meets that criteria, you would immediately turn all of these over. These make some of the scores better and also change some of the research costs. Remember that every player gets to draw a card once they pass this location. It's not just the first player to pass the location, so every player that passes one of these locations gets to draw a card. Everybody who makes it at least to 17 should have at least 4 cards that they've drawn from the virus deck by the end of the game. Those cards go immediately into your hand and they can be played on your next turn. These cards are a little more advanced, and so they actually give you a bump up in the game and make it a little easier to win. During your turn, you're going to be resolving the actions on the cards, and all of the actions on the cards are notated here on your player board. And I'm going to go through them really quick just so you can see what they are. So the first one is Infect. It looks like a little lightning bolt, and that allows you to place a virus on the board. This allows you to place the virus on the board with the non-shield side up. If it's blue, then you have to place it in the location that you played, the zone that you played. The crisis icon here, it looks like a little skull. That allows you to place the lowest number crisis token in a location. If it is blue, you have to place it in one of the zones in the location card that you play. If it is white, you can place that in any location. The attack lets you hit one virus with an attack. That means that if you hit this virus, it would be removed. If you hit this virus, which is shielded, it would be flipped to the non-shielded side. If the icon is blue, of course you have to do it in the zone that you played that turn. If it is white, then you can do it in any zone on the board. The magnet icon allows you to push or pull a virus towards your virus that you played. So if you played a virus in the liver, it would allow you to pull a virus towards it like that, or push a virus away from it like that. Magnet does require you to push or pull a virus toward a virus that you already have on the board. If it's blue, you have to do it on a virus in the zone that you are playing it in. If it is white, you can do it on any of your viruses on the board. The absorb allows you to absorb all the viruses in your location. So what you do is you choose one of your viruses, and then you place all the other viruses underneath your virus. Now your virus is now the only virus considered in that zone until somebody else plays a virus in that zone. If another player plays a virus in that zone, that virus is not automatically absorbed into this. That virus would now be in there with your virus. When it comes to determining who has the most icons in an area, or determining who gets hit in the area, all the viruses underneath your virus are considered to not actually be there. When you get to phase 6 here on the track, all viruses that are merged get released. If for some reason your virus becomes damaged while it's shielded on top of a merge, then it gets turned over. If your virus gets damaged while it's unshielded on top of a merge, then it is removed from the game, and these viruses are immediately unmerged. The shield icon allows you to shield a virus. I can't think of any reason why you'd want to shield somebody else's virus, but the rules do say flip one of your viruses, so I'm pretty sure you can only shield your viruses. But if it's blue, you have to shield viruses in the location where you played your location card. If it's white, you can shield viruses anywhere on your board. And then last is the move. The move allows you to move a virus. If it's a blue move, then you have to move a virus that's in the location based on the region card that you played. If it's white, then you can move a virus anywhere on the board. Movement has to follow the movement rules. So it has to follow an arrow. It cannot go against an arrow. So you cannot move from the liver to the heart this way because that's against the arrows. But you could move from the liver to the heart this way following the arrows. It's one move per movement. And that's it. That's how you play Viral. Viral is a very fun game. It's a beautiful game. The board is absolutely beautiful. When I pull this game out, people really tend to like it. It's very easy to teach. Probably the most confusing thing for people is just to remember to take their cards from here. Once the first section is over, you take these cards from here, you put them back in your hand, and then you take these cards and place them up here. So in theory, these cards are out for the next round, and you have to play with these cards. So you gotta kind of think ahead how you want to do things. The person who has the marker at the highest scoring level at the end of the game is the winner. And that's it. That's how you play Viral. If you have any questions or anything, or if I missed anything, please put a comment in the comments below. Otherwise, grab this game, play it. It's a great game. Have fun. And until I see you again, happy gaming.